Would you raise your hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you please state your full name?
I'm Jeffrey Edward Epstein, and my residence address is 6100 Red Hook Boulevard in Virgin Islands.
Have you ever been convicted of a crime?
In the murky world of scandal and secrecy, there are stories that send shivers down your spine. Today we dive into a tale that has haunted the corridors of power, revealing a side of humanity that's darker than you could ever imagine. Brace yourselves as we embark on a journey to unravel the hidden truths surrounding Jeffrey Epstein and discover the shocking revelation about his only last relative, Mark Epstein. But before we dive into the depths of this unsettling narrative, let me pose a question that will keep you on the edge of your seat. What if I told you that the story of Jeffrey Epstein is more enigmatic and twisted than the headlines ever let on? What if there's a hidden truth that has eluded the public eye? Jeffrey Epstein, a financier with connections to the rich and powerful, once operated in the shadows, leaving a trail of unanswered questions. His wealth and connections allowed him to navigate a world where morality seemed to take a backseat. But his empire of influence came crashing down when the truth about his sordid exploits came to light. The banker, who was connected to politicians, celebrities, and the nobility, was taken into custody on a number of unsettling accusations. His crimes and life remain a mystery even after he committed suicide while inside. On July 8, 2019, federal prosecutors filed charges against financier Jeffrey Epstein for one count of conspiring to conduct sex trafficking and one count of sex trafficking of a child. After the indictment, Epstein entered a not guilty plea to both counts. After being refused bail, he was kept behind bars until August 10th, when many media sources verified Epstein's apparent suicide death. However, a great deal of information concerning Epstein's life, activities, and wealth is still unknown. Some of these details were brought up in the trial of his longtime partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was detained in July 2020 and ultimately found guilty on 5 of 6 charges. She received a 20-year jail term in June of 2022. According to reports, Epstein was discovered hurt in his cell on July 24, 2019. The New York Times reported that he was discovered dead on August 10th from what seemed to be a suicide many weeks later. The FBI is currently looking into his death. Federal Bureau of Prisons made an official announcement on his death. They said, at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, MCC in New York, New York, on Saturday, August 10, 2019, at around 6:30 a.m., inmate Jeffrey Edward Epstein was discovered unconscious in his special housing unit cell, following what seemed to be a suicide. The response personnel took swift action to save lives. Employees called for emergency medical services, and efforts to save lives went on. After being taken by emergency medical personnel to a nearby hospital for treatment of his potentially fatal injuries, Mr. Epstein was declared dead by hospital personnel. The event is being looked into by the FBI. A forensic pathologist employed by Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, declared on Wednesday, October 30th, that he thought Jeffrey Epstein did not commit suicide. Mr. Epstein, 66, had many injuries that are extremely unusual in suicidal hangings and could occur much more commonly in homicidal strangulation, according to Dr. Michael Baden on the morning TV show Fox and Friends. According to the New York Times, Dr. Barbara Sampson, who was the chief medical examiner for the city, refuted Dr. Baden's assertion. Previously, she had declared his death to be a suicide. Although numerous of Epstein's claimed victims have since sued his estate, NPR claims that his passing effectively ended the criminal prosecution. Now, let's reveal what we know about the case against Epstein. On July 6th, shortly after returning from France to the United States, Epstein was taken into custody at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey. The next Monday, federal prosecutors filed charges against him. According to the charges, over the course of many years, Jeffrey Epstein, the defendant, sexually exploited dozens of young girls at his homes in Manhattan, New York, and Palm Beach, Florida, among other locations. The indictment further stated that, in order to maintain and increase his supply of victims, Epstein also paid certain of his victims to recruit additional girls to be similarly abused. He allegedly sexually abused kids as young as 14, according to the prosecution. After his detention, federal authorities also conducted a house search in New York City. During the search of his townhouse, investigators seized photographs of nude underage girls, the New York Times reports. Epstein entered a not guilty plea. As previously stated, he committed suicide in his cell before the trial because he was not granted bail. Epstein's well-known social circle served to increase the case's visibility further. Epstein was known for his associations with politicians from both political parties, including figures like Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. In a 2002 interview with New York Magazine, Trump expressed familiarity with Epstein, describing him as a terrific guy and highlighting their shared appreciation for beautiful women, some of whom were younger. However, in response to Epstein's recent arrest, Trump claimed to have distanced himself from Epstein in the preceding years, stating to the New York Times, "I had a falling out with him. I haven't spoken to him in 15 years. I was not a fan of his. That I can tell you." We've been hearing a lot about Jeffrey Epstein recently, especially with the release of documents and the list of names. However, one aspect that remains unclear is how Epstein died. His death was officially ruled as suicide by hanging in his prison cell back in 2019. In various interviews with Jeffrey's brother Mark Epstein, Mark mentioned that he's not surprised the recently released documents lack any bombshells. However, he firmly believes his brother Jeffrey Epstein was murdered in jail to silence him about potentially revealing incriminating information. Everyone had hoped these documents would unveil the so-called client list, including former Presidents Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, singer Michael Jackson, and magician David Copperfield. Victims of Jeffrey Epstein recounted, under oath, encounters with many powerful and famous men in his circle. But for Mark Epstein, the released list of names doesn't mean much. He expressed uncertainty about how these lists were compiled, emphasizing that it's not his business. His primary concern is his brother's death, and he is unconvinced that it was a suicide. Mark Epstein accuses former U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr of concluding suicide without a proper investigation, calling it a cover-up. He believes Barr is concealing something, raising the question of who Barr might be protecting. While Mark Epstein seeks answers, others wonder if the unsealed details will lead to anyone's prosecution. According to Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg, there's nothing in the document so far that would lead to criminal charges. One challenge is that many allegations are hearsay, information passed from Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell to others. Additionally, a non-prosecution agreement from Epstein's 2008 conviction in Florida prevents charging any co-conspirators. Despite the lack of immediate legal implications, the details are expected to leave a lasting impact due to their salacious nature. Ehrenberg emphasizes the importance of transparency over secrecy. Attempts to reach out to former U.S. Attorney Bill Barr for comment have been unsuccessful, and we may learn more as the judge rules on the confidentiality of two Jane Does in the lawsuit. Mark says, "Well, I appreciate that. I'm doing fine, but I do have a lot of questions about the supposed suicide. When I first heard about it, I accepted it, thinking it was his choice. However, as more facts emerge, especially from the autopsy, things don't add up. The inconsistencies between the Justice Department report and the actual evidence raise questions about why this might be a cover-up. One glaring detail was the position of Jeffrey's body when found. The Justice Department report described him hanging, but the autopsy photos show a different story. His body was in a sitting position, legs extended, with the bulk of his weight hanging from his neck. This contradicts the way they describe the hanging. It's confusing and raises doubts about the entire narrative. There should be footage from the cameras showing the events leading to Jeffrey's death. We need to see what happened when he was taken out of the cell and transferred. The lack of transparency raises suspicions, and obtaining this footage could provide essential insights into the circumstances surrounding his death. Mark Epstein emphasizes the need for a thorough investigation to address the unanswered questions and bring clarity to the circumstances of his brother's death. As we close this chapter of darkness and deception, we urge you to ponder the hidden truths that lie beneath the surface. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our journey into the shadows of humanity. Until next time, stay curious and stay vigilant.